Hello, welcome to another episode of Muse.
Make sure you like and subscribe and hit that notification bell, fam.
Kia ora everyone and welcome to Muse. Oh man, I'm actually super excited, and I probably say this all the time, but truly, like, Ken Owen, who I'd met from Musical Futures, is insane. And I say that in the nicest way because when I started to use Musical Futures pedagogy in my classroom, my department changed. And so, Ken, I'm so grateful to have you here. How are you doing?
Yeah, great. Great to be with you, Ben. It's good to see you. I'd like to see you in real life soon again.
Yeah, well, I mean, I came over there in 2018 to Australia, to Melbourne, twice that year. Yeah, but no, I really need to see you again. Need to see the others. It has been.
We'll be back to Auckland soon. As soon as they let us in.
Excellent.
We'll be back.
Excellent. So, Ken, what I normally do is at the beginning is we just talk a little bit about like your musical history and why you've become a music educator and now are doing what you're doing. I'll jump in, and obviously because there's a delay with Zoom, it may sound like I'm interrupting you, but I promise you I'm not.
It's all cool. Please do.
Cool.
Yeah, that's a pretty simple background. My parents were musicians, and I loved playing sport. But I kind of figured out how to play chords at about 15, and I really enjoyed it. So I was kind of an informal learner, and started playing covers, and in fact that was kind of where I went, covers bands. Not particularly creative, particularly good at anything, but I loved music, and later on, did a bit of study, but and worked for 10 years as a musician, but then became a teacher and a music teacher, and that really changed my life. And I love to sort of look, how popular musicians learn, and see if we could bring that in the classroom, which is what led me to Musical Futures, because that's what that's all about.
Mm. How long has Musical Futures been around for now? It's actually, when I looked at the dates of the original book that I'd found before I'd even met you guys, it was quite some time ago, right?
Oh yes, it's in the mid-90s. Really, it started off, and then once to about 2003, they got a little bit of funding and started to, through David Price and others, through some practitioners, not unlike yourself, really, Ben, like Anna Gow, who's one of the original classroom teachers, and that really started to change things. It was a little bit about data too, and about engagement at the year 9 level. It's where we often lose a lot of our students in music, year 8 and 9, because it's just not what they want to do.
Yeah.
So we started at that level, and I got a great interest in it and started looking at it in the UK around that time, 2006-07.
And I think we should clarify, just for the sake of the differences with Australian education and ourselves. So for us, year 9 would be kind of like first year at high school. So that's 13-year-old, 14-year-old, whereas year 9 for you guys is kind of our year 10, right? So they're about 14, 15, is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
15, 16 even, yeah. That's exactly right. Thanks for doing that, Ben.
That's right. And I actually, what's interesting about Musical Futures is, even though we mentioned year 8 and 9, I went to a school when I came over to study what some others were doing, and these kids were primary school level. I can't remember
that was
the school.
Yeah, well, when we did our piloting here, we had a principal of a primary school said, this should go to primary school. She loved project-based learning and inquiry, and had it going really well in the school. She said, we can do this, and she bullied us into saying we're going to be a pilot school. And it was the first one in the world, and back in 2009, and it was a great success. It was so successful, she won a trip to the UK to study Musical Futures, and since then, 65% of our schools have been, upper primary schools, starting with Musical Futures. So, and then that made us change our resourcing to bring it back down and to teaching, kids to get the skills and chords so that they could learn themselves and play their own songs. So that was a fabulous time.
Cool. I lost you there for a moment, but you're still here, so that's good. If you don't mind, I want to talk to you about my experiences coming over to Australia, because to me, like, we've had the training in New Zealand, and I was lucky enough to go, and that really, like, I was like, oh, this is exactly the sort of music education that I would have dreamed of, and to have seen it happening was incredible. And when I went to Australia, like, the school that I first came to when I first landed, and for the big gig, which was in 2018, if I'm not mistaken. I think it was around that time. I think it was like mid 2018. The school that you were at starts with F. I can't remember the name of it. It's just out of Melbourne. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No.
Is it
F?
You have to get, okay, so not F. What's the school? It's not far. It wasn't far out of Melbourne Central. And it was
Doveton College at Timbara, or
there's another one. There was another one. It was like a mix of primary school and secondary school. It was kind of like before they went off to high school, I think it was. I remember in the room, I was just like, this is my dream. There were like...
Oh, yes, Footscray West Primary School.
Which one? Yes, Footscray.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
it.
Footscray West Primary
So
School.
when I walked in there, I saw multiple drum kits. I saw these classes coming in, picking up these guitars with the guitar tutor, whole lot of basses, whole lot of vocalists, and they were playing these crazy good songs, and I was like, I'm just getting goosebumps now, thinking these are like young kids, and they're in the zone. They're in that moment of flow, which is what music to me is all about. And I was just in awe, thinking, holy crap. And then I remember watching the vocal teacher grab a whole lot of girls, go off to the vocal room, and they're all singing their hearts out, having a great time. Then they come back in, and then they sing, and I was like, this is music education, man. Like, can you talk to me a little bit about Footscray?
Yeah, by the way, on one point there, we've improved that. We've got an equal number of boys singing as girls now, which is really, really important. So we've set the room up as a big backline. So every student in the class, could be 28 of them, can all have their position in the backline of, the drums, guitar, bass, keys, vocals, guitar. So that's really important. So every class hands-on. We've set up with silent band technology, so each group of instruments is set up and feeding into the PA and the headphones. So, so some serious tech there, and a lot of wiring. But we've got 8 music teachers at that school, believe it or not, with instrumental teachers and other things. It's very mature. We started the whole program there from scratch, and the school has grown, and it is amazing when you see it going and the kids hooting, after they play their songs, and they learn, they know, they can feel the groove, and it's it's fabulous. So that is a great example, but it's a bit of a privilege to have 9 or 10 digital drum kits.
Yes, as I found out when I went to go and ask my, how much money I could spend on doing the same.
We had a roll-on sponsorship through the mid 2000s, which was awesome, and so that helped us buy a lot of stuff. And that is. I've got to get some video of that school operating. It's still going exactly the same as when you were there, Ben.
Sweet. I think actually I have some video I still have on my phone from when I came over, and I should probably edit it to you.
You can do that, would be good.
Yeah, oh man. And then what happened was we had the big gig, which for those that don't know, it's basically we're a whole bunch of music teachers from all over the place. Like it was Australia and New Zealand mainly, I think, but maybe there was some from other countries. I couldn't really remember, but we all came together. We all learnt about the new resources, about the whole concept of informal learning. Passion. I think the thing was is the students got to choose what song they wanted to learn, and we gave them the freedom and autonomy to go away and make those mistakes. And it's, if you want to explain that a little bit more, it kind of felt like you're just helping them with the process when they need it, right?
Yeah, well, I think that's the key tenets of Musical Futures is students choose what they want to play music they like with their friends. They choose their groups too. It creates a lot of angst for teachers when we first do this, and they choose their instrument, and and you've got to have a bona fide instrument that they want to play the song they want to play. So there's some requirements, and then you've got to have the flexibility in your classroom, the acoustic space, to allow these kids to do this, or headphones, whatever. So there are some challenges there, but when you do this successfully, kids are so motivated to move. The first time they do that, it might take them 6 weeks to just get a verse of a song or a chorus, but then the second time they try, they're so much quicker. And then they're on the trail, and they're on the way to being independent music learners, so that in their lives they can hear a song and they can learn how to play it in some way and take music with them. So that's the key part of Musical Futures is about excitement and engagement.
And it's different from traditional forms of music education, and what I mean by that is I'm not in any way dismissing it, because I still am a very much a you should learn theory sort of person, but that to me comes a bit later. But just watching, as you said, like the kids have fun and they engage with it and they kind of learn from their mistakes, and just watching them build resilience from it is just insane.
Well, you've got to play wrong notes to play right notes, and you were right. You flipped it. Sound before symbol is one of the tenets that we have, and so play first. And the other one we've had recently is talk less, play more, and that's really aimed at us as teachers, because we just talk too much. All the time I find stop. Okay, the kids. It's 100%. It's a practical subject.
Yeah.
I only wish we had a guitar tech or a teacher's aide like science do in their practical classes, because you spend most of your time chasing leads and practical things,
Yeah. I do remember the first time that I came back with the Musical Futures inspiration and knowledge that I'd gained from the big gig, coming back to my school. Actually, no, let's go back one. It wasn't the big gig. It was the session that was run over in Long Bay College. And I'd come back and I just threw the kids in the deep end. I said, you're going to learn Beatles songs and you're going to play Beatles songs and you're going to figure them out yourself. There you go. And they did. And we put on a lunchtime concert where they all played Beatles songs that they'd learnt themselves. And I was just like, whoa. The crazy thing was, Ken, it was like chaotic and messy at the beginning. But over time, they became better and better and better. And once we started to bring in the Musical Futures resources from the big gig, like the more of the play-alongs, like Uptown Funk, for example. I still have a video that I mentioned before of the entire class playing it. Some of those kids now have gone on. They've never played guitar in their life. I've got a couple of students now that are some of the best guitarists in my school.
Really?
Because they've gone home and they're like, I never knew guitar was this fun. And now they're bought a guitar. They show me. It's. Ken, I have to say, like, Musical Futures to me is really transformed, as I say, like, my whole idea of musical, like, music education in general. I think it's fantastic.
Well, it's wonderful to hear. It's not for every teacher, and your teacher's got to be willing. The hardest thing to change in life is human behaviour, but, we're here for kids, and we've got to let them learn, and we've got to make it culturally relevant to their world, and we've got to stage it so that they can have success, because it's all carrot and stick in this world, and any kid can play music, can't they? I mean, but as teachers, we've just got to embrace that chaotic element, because instead of having battery hens now of students we keep in desks just so they behave, we're freeing them up to move around the room, make noise, because that's fundamental, and it is chaotic, and it's sometimes it's really chaotic.
Oh, it's
particularly
so much so.
Yeah, and you go, if someone walks past this, a parent walks past this class now, they're going to go, what is that teacher doing, But I guess the thing I'm most proud of in the time of Musical Futures is that teachers are enjoying their lives more because the kids are behaving, because they want to do the things we do and they want to play. And it's as simple as that, because music teacher can be one of the best jobs in the world. It can also be one of the worst.
Yeah.
And we've all experienced that. I know we all have. But if we think of kids, that can be one of the most boring classes in the world too, if we let it be. So why would they? So freeing it up and giving it some rigour and structure, and still having plenty of student choice is the key. And it's fantastic you've been able to embrace that and be rewarded for it in all ways. It's I'm really proud of that, Ben.
Yeah, thank you. And, like one of the schools was Hadley Renane School out at Long Bay College. Yeah. And that was actually the first introduction I had, other than finding, the article about Sting talking about music education and the original Musical Futures kind of like promo booklet. And when I went out to Hadley School, just like unbelievable, the amount of spaces he had like these kids playing all these instruments, set it up, and they had, I love those cards. I remember looking at the cards where you put behind the keys of the keyboard. And the first time you look at it, you're kind of like, that's not right. And then you're like, hold on a second, stick it behind the keys where there's that little gap, and all of a sudden it lines up, and you can scale, move it along, and all of a sudden you have all the chords you've ever needed right there. That's ingenious stuff, man.
The other thing we found in the States was because Rox introduced us to putting the sponge in the guitar to mute the strings. That was real for me. That was a worth it to Chicago on its own, and just because it let kids, one of the hardest instruments to play, of course, a guitar, and the kid can actually say, here's an E minor chord. Oh, one finger, here's a C. That has been empowering for students to get up and play and have fun and success.
Yeah, and there's like a I'm going to say river, like a flow of how things come together with music and just any subject in general. Curiosity is the first thing, right? So they're curious about picking up the instrument and they're afraid because they don't know it. So you remove barriers like 6 strings, now you have 3, and all of a sudden they play those and then they feel, which I think we mentioned before we started recording, they feel what it's like to be part of a band. They feel what it's like to, and honestly, when I watch the video of the kids playing Uptown Funk, they're just so engaged and they're having so much fun. And I still have now really valuable and meaningful relationships with some of these kids that at other times may have felt like music wasn't their thing, or that they had, they're leaving everything at the door to come in and just be part of a team and part of a group in there. And I just literally stood back after giving them some things to work on and explore and make mistakes and learn. And honestly, it's been fascinating, which is kind of why I have you on the show. I guess another thing I just want to mention is to ask about now is, where is Musical Futures going now? Like, what is the goal and the plan now that you've established some schools that really embrace it? What are the next steps that you see?
Yeah, I think it's becoming part of the norm. When we first came in, largely in 2010 into schools, it's highly criticised for its informal approach and pushing notation to the back. The traditionalists, found that difficult, but it's not anymore because the data is there saying more kids are coming to play. And also, look across the key learning areas in schools. Hands-on approaches and inquiry learning and project-based learning is more the norm, because we need to engage in this world with everyone, don't we? All kids, all learning styles. So it's for now, it really should become a norm that people can go to. It's nothing special. It's not. It's important to know that no one learning approach is all things to all people. There are many. There's Kadai and offshore work, and there's so many different things, and people can be very dogmatic about it. We're not. Musical Futures and informal learning is just one part of a mix, one part of a jigsaw that might mean something for some children and some teachers. And I think it'll be more and more. But we think there'll be, just like we incorporate rap and hip hop into a lot of pop, and we get blended styles, we'll get blended approaches to learning that the teachers will bring along. And I think that's wonderful. I can't wait to see where it goes, where people are doing more classical teaching with informal learning methods. I think that's something that's really open, needs to happen. So kids can orchestral bands and stage bands and concert bands can pick up oral learning methods, by singing back, playing, copying, rather than being focused on notation. You can do both. So that's where I'd like to see some developments done. We've done a little bit of that, and it's called On Cue, which is starting a bit of that. I think we did better with you. Yeah. But so there's plenty of places for this to go to engage. I'd like to see primary school teachers have a go at Musical Futures who are not musical, who can play a couple of chords, and incorporate it in their week.
What I love about the ukulele is I used to hate it. It's really fascinating to me is that as a guitarist, it's kind of like, just doesn't seem right. It's like, you shouldn't play ukulele. You need to learn the 6 strings. But you know what? It removes that barrier of like the frustration that can come from going through learning an instrument. So of course, ukulele still has its difficulties, especially I call it claw hand, where you're trying to make sure that you can hear every string, and you got to learn how to do that. But it's really not that difficult. And so that by removing that barrier and letting kids just play simple songs, like those play along things that I mentioned before, they're incredible. Like 3 chords, and all of a sudden you've got maybe 4 chords. You've got Stay With Me by Sam Smith. You've got the whole class singing and playing, and they can all play the whole thing on ukulele. One of the things that I think is really important for me as a New Zealand music teacher, where we have NCEA, is I've been using Musical Futures is to get them in. We only have 1 term with them at year 9, so it's one term. Give them as much freedom and learn about this, and and then year 10 we have them for a whole year at my school anyway. And that foundation from musical knowledge means that when they get to year 11, when they're sitting in CEA, they've got the basic foundations that now they can build upon, and off they go. And honestly, I've seen some crazy stuff happen. It's just been fascinating.
That's well done, because when you only have one term, continuous music is really important. Sequential learning is not, because kids grab from the future and all those sort of things. Curriculum is written sequentially, but I don't think they're that relevant all the time to many kids who succeed. But having just one term, that's a real challenge actually, to keep those kids doing something and on track, isn't it, for the rest of the year?
Yeah, and even things like for them at year 9, that's not necessarily ukulele, just even like tambourine, picking up, because it's been funny how many times I pick a tambourine up and I'm like, and I'll shake it and make the typical rock sort of tambourine shake sound, and they're like, "Oh, sir, that's easy. Let me have a go." And they'll pick it up and then they'll be like, "Oh," and then they get embarrassed because they don't know how to do it. But once they do and they understand how to place it correctly in a song, all of a sudden you got a kid who's just happy being in the zone, and mental health is a really important thing to me, and so it just makes kids feel good about themselves and being part of and being included in something that they may not have felt included in before.
Absolutely, that is fundamental to all we do.
Is there anything else you'd like to talk about before we wrap up, or anything you want to mention or plug about what's been going on?
No. I think that's terrific, Ben, and it's so easy because you live it, and it's easy. It's easy for you. I'd have to say, as a guitarist and a person who's had a lot of experience in backline, it's probably a lot easier than a clarinet player coming in who has to go, "Whoa, I better learn that with the kids," which is a great thing to do. We're all on equal footing like that because we don't play everything, for some traditionalists, I really admire them to throwing themselves into this sort of classroom, because it must seem like a very noisy chaos. But I just say to kids, and I know you have a lot of kids listening to this program, that anyone can play music, and you only need to learn a few chords, and then you'll learn the extra one you need. And chords are king in this whole process. If you understand how that structure is, and you can find a way how to strum in time or play in time, it can be so much fun playing with other people. Music's meant to be that way,
And you know what, I will mention there, just to go back for one thing you said, is that there were, at the Auckland one that I went to, there were lots of teachers that were very scared and not too sure how it was going to work for them. They came along, they learned everything, and from what I hear, I mean, they've done really well, because there's so much support out there. Like if anyone's stuck with anything, music teachers help each other out, as all teachers do in general.
We've had great response around New Zealand schools, and I think they already understood that the need for practicality amongst students, for behavioural reasons too. So it's been great experience. I can't wait to come back. So it'll be pretty soon, I hope.
Great, because we need you back, man. We need you back. One last question I always ask, Ken, is 3 words of advice that you'd give students that are interested in music, be it to get into it, that are already doing it, whatever it is. But I've always asked this question at the end: 3 words that you think are monumental and important to music from your perspective.
Yeah, I think fun, and I think friends, and performance.
Beautiful.
I think they're the things I would value most in these kids' performances.
So fun, friends, and performance, or performances, because I want them to do more than just one. Yeah.
Well, it performance could be anything, into their little practice together just to play, even if it's just to put together the intro, to have an outcome. Yeah. So, but the fun was definitely my first one. Well, why else would you play music? Why would we do it then? Why would we?
Well, I mean, I make no money from it other than my teaching job, like personally, like with my band. But
that's it. Well, that's why we become teachers, and that can be fun too. I hope teachers are having fun.
Oh, I love it, man. It's a vocation, and I'm just so grateful for all the things that have happened in my life that have led me here. And I'm happy to say Andrea Rabin, who was my music teacher, was such an inspiration to me. And she really pushed me. She was hard when she needed to be, but she gave me freedom and autonomy to learn and make mistakes. And I'm forever grateful for that experience, because I wouldn't be the music teacher I am today without her having been in my life. And that's one of the beautiful things as being a music teacher, is that you know, I know lots of kids that have said that about their previous music teachers, you know, or lots of people I've met. It's you know, or whoever teacher. It's just nice to be able to say that for my music teacher, that she certainly has had a massive impact on my life.
Wonderful.
Cool. I think we'll leave it there, but thanks again, and make sure you go and visit Musical Futures website. We'll have the links in the description of this video and podcast. And we'll just keep up to date. Make sure you subscribe to them. Make sure you ask questions to those like myself that are doing it, and find out who is, and just keep playing, man. Keep having fun. Keep practicing, and that's it. Enjoy life.
Thanks, Benny.
Well, good.
Okay.
Take care.
Bye for now.